A young female CEO is honored by Forbes magazine, only to be charged with fraud not long afterwards. No, this isn't a rerun of stories about former Theranos CEO Elizabeth Holmes or former Frank CEO Charlie Javice. This story is about Caroline Ellison, the 28-year-old former CEO of crypto trading firm Alameda Research, which, in November 2022, went bankrupt along with its sister company FTX, a crypto exchange once valued at $32 billion. Both Alameda and FTX were founded by Sam Bankman-Fried, commonly referred to by his initials SBF, who also happened to be Ellison's ex-boyfriend. Ellison and Bankman-Fried were among several FTX and Alameda executives who were charged with fraudulently transferring billions of dollars of FTX customer deposits to Alameda without customer knowledge, using the money to make trades and investments, to pay off debts, and to fund lavish lifestyles. Ellison has since pled guilty to several charges of fraud and is cooperating with prosecutors in their case against Bankman-Fried. Meanwhile, an embittered Bankman-Fried is blaming the financial implosion of two multi-billion-dollar companies on his ex-girlfriend and her behavior in response to their breakup. Caroline Ellison was born in Boston, Massachusetts in 1994. She was the oldest of three daughters of Glenn Ellison, head of the economics department at MIT, and Sarah Fisher Ellison, a lecturer in the same department. Ellison was described as a quiet math nerd who wrote live-action role-playing scenes and loved Harry Potter, describing herself as a Ravenclaw. She was raised Catholic, and as a college senior, she wrote of her fondness for attending Mass and praying every night before bed. Growing up, she frequently competed in national math competitions and majored in math at Stanford University. One of her former Stanford professors described Ellison as very mathy and struggled to reconcile the Ellison she knew with someone who would eventually become entangled in a multi-billion-dollar fraud. In college, Ellison maintained a Tumblr blog called World Optimization. She posted about Harry Potter, Jane Austen, and Taylor Swift. She wrote a list of cute boy things, at the top of which was controlling most major world governments. But Ellison also posted some things that were somewhat unexpected for a future female CEO, such as her belief that the sexual revolution was a mistake, and that women are better suited to being homemakers and rearing children than doing careers. After graduating from college, Ellison began working at a quant trading firm called Jane Street. She had never really planned on a Wall Street career and told her high school magazine that she sort of stumbled into one. Ellison constantly worried that she was average at her job. She was also constantly preoccupied with emotions revolving around men she was dating. At Jane Street, she dated a co-worker called Eric Manez. In later writings, she would reveal that Manez told her that he would probably never love her, and made her feel bad about herself. And she confessed that hearing about his exes made her feel jealous and insecure. It was at Jane Street where Caroline would meet Sam Bankman-Fried. Bankman-Fried was an MIT graduate. Like Ellison, he was the child of two academics. His parents were both professors at Stanford Law School. Ellison and Bankman-Fried bonded over a passion for effective altruism, a philosophy that encouraged individuals to use data to change the world. The philosophy taught, for example, that rather than being a doctor who helped kids in poor countries, one could have greater impact by becoming wealthy and sponsoring 100 doctors to work in poor countries. This philosophy was popular in Silicon Valley and at Wall Street firms like Jane Street. Young traders saw it as a justification to become very rich, then change the world by giving it all away. In 2017, Bankman-Fried left Jane Street to start a new company, Alameda Research, a crypto trading firm focused on arbitrage, buying currencies low and selling them high across international markets. Later that year, Ellison, still working at Jane Street, met Bankman-Fried at a cafe to learn about his new trading firm. She was dressed as a wood nymph and was on her way to a LARP party. SPF offered her a job at his new company. Ellison was intrigued, but before she left for a new job, she asked her boyfriend Eric Manez one more time if he loved her. When the answer was no, she packed up her things and left her cushy $200,000 a year job at Jane Street to join the murky world of crypto. Ellison seemed to buy into the philosophy that decentralized currency was a positive force against authoritarian governments. On her Tumblr blog, she compared herself to a science fiction protagonist, writing, "Your heroine is working for a digital currency exchange that allows citizens of repressive regimes to move money anywhere in the world." Ellison would soon meet three of Sam Bankman-Fried's closest friends, who would go on to become FTX and Alameda executives. Gary Wang, SBF's college roommate and friend from high school math camp, who became a co-founder of Alameda and FTX and CTO of both firms. Nishat Singh, the chief engineering officer at FTX, who had been SBF's younger brother's childhood best friend, and Sam Trabucco, another friend of SBF's from high school math camp, who would eventually temporarily run Alameda alongside Ellison. Ellison became a rare female in a male-dominated environment. Colleagues recalled seeing her watch the Sussex royal wedding while everyone around her played League of Legends. During her first year at Alameda, Caroline Ellison, the then 23-year-old passionate Jane Austen and Taylor Swift fan, who candidly admitted that what she wanted in life was emotions and children and an SUV to drive them around in, would write her boss Sam Bankman-Fried a 4-page business-like memo saying she had romantic feelings for him. "These feelings consume a ton of my brain space," she wrote. "They affect my ability to work, mainly by amplifying work-related feelings in unhelpful ways, e.g., I did a bad job on this thing. Now Sam will hate me. Sad." The two had become romantically involved and would proceed to serially date on and off in the following years. Ellison's intense, all-consuming feelings about her romantic relationship and how these feelings affected her performance at work would, according to Bankman-Fried, later cause issues in the workplace and in running Alameda after they finally broke things off. Bankman-Fried founded FTX 2 years after founding Alameda. FTX was a platform on which customers could exchange their cryptocurrencies as well as store their money. As FTX became increasingly successful, Bankman-Fried left Alameda to run FTX full-time. He named Ellison and Trabucco as co-CEOs of Alameda in his place. Bankman-Fried imagined that Trabucco would manage the trading risks while Ellison managed the people. In 2022, both Ellison and Trabucco appeared on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. Ellison was just 27 years old. Trabucco would eventually step down as co-CEO and leave Alameda altogether, leaving Ellison to manage both the people and the trading risks alone as sole CEO. FTX quickly became one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world. Bankman-Fried was able to secure investments from respected firms like Sequoia Capital. FTX seemed like a safe bet for investors. It collected fees whenever their companies traded on the platform. It didn't matter whether the trades won or lost money. FTX always got paid. To investors, it was like betting on the casino rather than gambling yourself. In 2021, FTX made over $1 billion in revenue. Sam Bankman-Fried became the poster boy for crypto. He spent over $20 million on a Super Bowl commercial and hired celebrities like Steph Curry, Tom Brady, and Gisele Bündchen to market his company. Bankman-Fried became the richest person in the world under 30, worth about $22 billion in 2021 at just 29 years old. His peak net worth would ultimately reach about $26.5 billion. He and his executives lived lavish lifestyles. SBF, Ellison, Wang, and Singh, and 6 other FTX and Alameda employees all lived together in a $30 million penthouse in the Bahamas where FTX was based. As FTX became more and more famous, Caroline Ellison remained in the background. That is, until the unraveling of both companies began. The beginning of the end of Alameda and FTX coincided with the end of Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline Ellison's romantic relationship. From the beginning, Sam had reservations about dating a coworker. For a long time, he insisted on keeping their relationship a secret. This bothered Ellison, who wrote him a memo saying, "I guess a lot of what bothers me is feeling like you're ashamed of me. I feel like if I were better/more impressive, you wouldn't be embarrassed for people to know we were dating." Bankman-Fried tried to assure her that he wanted to keep things quiet because it could be bad PR for people to know they were dating and that it might make others uncomfortable or worried about workplace bias. Ellison and Bankman-Fried finally decided to break things off for good in April of 2022. She kicked him out of their shared room in the luxury penthouse, and he moved into a different house in the same compound. Although Ellison had eventually revealed their relationship to a few colleagues, most FTX and Alameda employees never knew that Ellison and SBF had been dating, or that SBF no longer lived in the famed $30 million penthouse that everyone thought he lived in. Ellison and SBF's breakup in April 2022 came at the worst possible time, right when cryptocurrencies began to plummet. The price of Bitcoin fell by over a half between April and June. The value of many of Alameda's cryptocurrency holdings dropped. Alameda had borrowed billions of dollars from lending companies in order to fund their trading and make various illiquid investments, such as buying back shares of FTX and investing in various startups. As crypto lenders struggled during the crash, they called back their loans, and Alameda didn't have the money to pay them. All through the collapse, Ellison and Bankman-Fried were barely speaking. Bankman-Fried blamed Alameda's financial losses on Ellison's limited communication with him after their breakup, and on her failure to follow his advice to hedge some of their positions, which would have protected them from the crypto crash. Ellison would later admit that hedging would have helped, but that part of the problem was that SBF had made so many investments that could not be quickly liquidated to provide cash. Rather than allow Alameda to fail like numerous other crypto firms, Bankman-Fried made the fateful decision to pay off Alameda's debts with FTX customer money. From its inception, FTX and Alameda executives had funneled FTX customer deposits into Alameda accounts, using the money to invest in various startups and to fund trades whose profits were used to fund their lavish lifestyles and make political donations. Bankman-Fried also authorized loans to key executives, to his parents, and even a $1 billion loan to himself, all through Alameda and all funded by unknowing FTX customers. Wang and Singh engineered software allowing Alameda to maintain a negative balance on its FTX account, effectively granting Alameda an unlimited line of credit. At first, they intended to limit Alameda's negative balance to no more than FTX's revenues, but soon they began frequently eating into FTX customer money. This was all illegal. SBF had assured investors that Alameda would not have any advantages on the FTX platform. FTX had also assured customers that their money would not be used to make trades and investments. It's likely that SBF simply never believed that he would catastrophically lose the money. But now, with crypto markets crashing and Alameda in trouble, they were taking exorbitant amounts of FTX customer deposits. The total amount of money Alameda borrowed from FTX customer funds was $14 billion. They were able to pay some of it back and reduce it to a still whopping $9 billion. Their hope was that in the coming months, after the markets settled down, they would be able to raise enough funds to replace the missing customer money before anyone noticed. In the meantime, Bankman-Fried had lost faith in Alameda. In September of 2022, he wrote a Google document arguing that Alameda should be shut down, and shared the document with Gary Wang and Nishat Singh, notably excluding Caroline Ellison. In the document, SBF cited the poor PR around FTX and Alameda's relationship. He also stated that Caroline Ellison was not a natural leader, and probably never would be, and insisted that they throw their support behind another trading firm, Modulo Capital, which he claimed had stronger leadership. Modulo Capital was a little-known trading firm that had been founded less than a year earlier by one of Bankman-Fried's former girlfriends, Lily Zhang. Zhang had been a former trader with Jane Street. SBF claimed that while at Jane Street, Caroline Ellison and Lily Zhang had had a romantic rivalry, often saying negative things about each other. In the third and fourth quarter of 2022, SBF invested $400 million in Modulo, intending to shut Alameda down and establish Modulo as a new quant trading firm in the Bahamas. Zhang had moved to the Bahamas and set up her new firm in the same resort where Bankman-Fried and Ellison lived. In her writings, Caroline Ellison expressed jealousy and resentment over Modulo, saying that she felt that she was being squeezed out. However, SBF's plans to shut down Alameda and to replace those missing customer funds proved too late. On November 2, 2022, the news outlet CoinDesk published a leaked Alameda balance sheet showing that a large portion of their holdings consisted of billions of dollars of FTT. FTT was a token that had been created by FTX itself, whose value increased with demand, similar to a company's stock. The fact that SBF owned both companies made it appear that he was basically counting his own stock as an asset on his balance sheet. It also meant that Alameda's holdings were extremely vulnerable to any fluctuations in the value of FTT. 4 days later, on November 6, Changpeng Zhao, the CEO of rival crypto exchange Binance, declared his intent to sell off approximately $500 million worth of FTT tokens. Zhao had been an investor in FTX when it first launched, but had divested his equity stake as the two firms evolved into competitors, and had amassed a significant cache of FTT tokens in the process. The CoinDesk article had exposed Alameda's susceptibility to FTT market volatility, and Zhao potentially saw a strategic opportunity to undermine his rival. Zhao's sell-off sparked more sell-offs among other traders, and FTT soon lost 75% of its value. This prompted a massive run on the bank, but due to the $9 billion hole in customer funds due to propping up Alameda, FTX was unable to fulfill all customer withdrawal requests. By November 11, a mere 9 days after the CoinDesk article on Alameda, and 4 days after SBF attempted to assure the public via Twitter that their assets were fine, FTX and Alameda both filed for bankruptcy. Ellison, Bankman-Fried, Zhang, and Wang were all charged with fraud. For some time, the FBI could not locate Ellison. Rumors swirled that she planned to flee to Dubai, which had no extradition treaty with the US. But Ellison emerged a month later in December in New York. She pleaded guilty to charges of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, commodities fraud, securities fraud, and money laundering, and agreed to cooperate with the prosecutors in their case against Bankman-Fried in exchange for leniency in her sentencing. Gary Wang and Nishat Singh followed soon afterwards. Bankman-Fried found himself under house arrest, facing 8 counts of fraud. He was seen as the de facto head of both companies and has been accused of misleading customers and investors about asset segregation between FTX and Alameda, thereby exposing FTX customers to massive undisclosed risk. According to the lawsuit filed by the SEC, in essence, Bankman-Fried placed billions of dollars of FTX customer funds into Alameda. He then used Alameda as his personal piggy bank to buy luxury condominiums, support political campaigns, and make private investments, among other uses. In multiple interviews following the collapse, Sam Bankman-Fried unsuccessfully tried to convince the public that he was not involved in Alameda's day-to-day operations. Interviewers noticed that he would become visibly agitated whenever Caroline Ellison was mentioned, although FTX executives had clearly been breaking the law by trading with customer deposits. It was clear that an embittered Sam Bankman-Fried felt that they would have continued to be financially stable if not for Ellison. It would later be revealed that during a meeting, Bankman-Fried, speaking strongly and forcefully, had accused Ellison of being responsible for their financial situation, causing Ellison to break down in tears. In a series of notes sent to a crypto YouTuber after the bankruptcy, Bankman-Fried asserted that Ellison had been unfit for her role as CEO. He sent lengthy documents detailing Ellison's failure to hedge as per his recommendations. He accused her of avoiding him and dodging his inquiries about risk management until it was too late. He claimed that she would feel worse about herself whenever he offered suggestions, noting that their prior romantic involvement didn't help the situation. He further stated that Sam Trabucco, Ellison's former co-CEO, had been better at risk management, but hadn't gotten along with Ellison and had been slowly disengaging from the company since 2021. Trabucco had established himself as the one person at Alameda who rivaled SBF in his dedication to crypto trading, but as soon as he was promoted to co-CEO, employees noticed that Trabucco seemed to check out, becoming more preoccupied with living a lavish lifestyle. He stepped down as co-CEO in April of 2022, right before everything started to go wrong, and exited Alameda altogether in August. Trabucco is currently the only member of SBF's former inner circle who hasn't been charged with wrongdoing. To reinforce his narrative about Caroline Ellison, Bankman-Fried leaked pages from her intimate private journals to a New York Times reporter. The leak would cost him dearly. A judge ruled that it amounted to witness tampering, and his bail was revoked. Bankman-Fried was removed from house arrest to await his trial in a jail cell. In the leaked diaries, which were stored in a series of Google documents, Ellison expressed feeling inadequate for her role as Alameda's CEO and noted that her recent breakup with SBF was affecting her job performance. She wrote, "Running Alameda doesn't feel like something I'm that comparatively advantaged at or well-suited to do." She admitted that her enthusiasm for her job had waned considerably and that the job felt too associated with Bankman-Fried in a way that was painful. She also expressed concern that Bankman-Fried didn't think she was good enough and confessed that in his presence, she had an instinct to shrink and become smaller and quieter and defer to others. Additionally, she admitted to intentionally limiting contact with SBF after their breakup. "Not giving you the contact you wanted felt like the only way I could regain a sense of power," she wrote. However, despite SBF's continued insistence that Caroline Ellison's behavior led to the financial hole that sunk both companies, prosecutors had an audio recording of a meeting in which Caroline Ellison told Alameda employees that it had been Bankman-Fried's decision to plug that financial hole using FTX customer funds. Ellison eventually moved on from SBF and began dating another Alameda employee. With her guilty plea, she told the judge that she was truly sorry for defrauding FTX customers, adding that she knew it was wrong. Legal experts say that her guilty plea, her forthright and humble apology, and her position as a woman in a male-dominated field might garner her sympathy with the jury and make her a powerful witness. While her fraud charges carried a combined sentence of up to 110 years in prison, her cooperation with prosecutors is expected to significantly reduce her prison time if she receives any. Meanwhile, Bankman-Fried, currently 31 years old, is likely facing decades in prison. Thanks for watching. A lot of the information for this video came from the book Going Infinite by Michael Lewis, author of The Big Short and Moneyball. If you're interested, there's a link to the book in the description below. If you'd like to learn about another Forbes 30 Under 30 female CEO who has been charged with fraud, check out our video on Charlie Javice, a Wharton graduate who scammed JP Morgan Chase out of $175 million by selling them a company with 4 million fake customers.